Good morning, everybody. This morning, we're going to be reading from Luke 15, and in preparation for Josh's sermon, he's asked me to read the chapter for you all. The parable of the lost sheep. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, the joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. The parable of the lost coin. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. The parable of the lost son. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off on a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I have been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat, so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours has to be squandered your property with prostitutes and come home and kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours.' But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Have you ever lost something really important? Maybe your cell phone. You're frantically trying to leave the house and you're like, oh, Lyle says he lost his ring one time, wedding ring. Whew. Maybe you lost your wedding ring. Maybe you lost your keys to your car and you're like, I'm trying to get out the door. I can't find my phone nor my keys. Maybe you're in a crowd and you lost one of your kids. Like they've run off and disappeared somewhere. And I won't say that one out loud, but we've in those moments of fear where you're like, well, I've lost something, like I've lost my kid, or my keys or my phone. We don't sit there and say, well, I can go to the store and buy another phone, like, no big deal. I got an extra set of keys at the house. I got 2 kids. I can sacrifice one of them. We don't do that. Like when something is lost, we have this urgency to go find it because lost things matter. And that's exactly the point of Luke 15 that Jesus gets to. But before we get into the stories of Luke 15, I want us to start verse 1 and 2. So when you're at verse 1, we see very clearly the situation that Jesus is in. Now, the tax collectors and the sinners were all gathered around to hear Jesus. Now notice, this is not the crowd that most people would appeal to. And then verse 2, the Pharisees and the teachers muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." And that's the problem. That is the problem in Luke chapter 15. We often focus on the stories, and the parables are meant to be explored. But the problem is that Jesus is hanging out with sinners. And the churchy people don't like it. That's what's really going on here. It's easy for us to think that church is for church people. And it's easy to assume that God prefers obedient people over rebellious heathens. But it's also easy to forget that Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. Let's go through the stories together that Jesus shares and see what lessons we can learn from them today. The first story is the story of a lost sheep, and this is in verses 3 and following. But you come to verse 4, and there's this simple picture. Suppose you have 100 sheep, and you lose one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in open country and go after the lost sheep until he has found it? Now, let's be honest for a moment. That's a 1% loss. You got 100, you lost one. That's a 1% loss. The stock market has done 1% over the last week. So most of us aren't sitting here being like, "Oh my goodness, I've lost my 1%. If you had $100 sitting on the counter and you lost $1, most of us are going to be like, "Well, I'll find it later. We're not going to worry too much about it." This is a 1% loss. And when the shepherd realizes that he's lost a sheep, he goes off and he says, "I'm going to leave the 99. Wow, that's dangerous. I'm going to leave the 99. I'm going to go find the one that I've lost." And notice when he finds the sheep, is the picture that when we read this parable, is the picture you get that the shepherd bends down and is like, bad sheep, shame on you for leaving us. You should know better." Is that the picture that anyone got when the shepherd left the 99 to go after the one? No, I don't either. The picture I got is that when he found that sheep, he might have fell on his knees and grabbed it around the neck and said, "I'm so thankful that you are okay, Bilbo," or whatever he named these sheep. Let's just, these sheep, he knows them by name. And so he's named this sheep. He bends down, he grabs it by the neck, he calls it by name, and he says, "I'm just so thankful that you are okay. You're a little cut up. You're a little bruised up. We're going to go back to the others and we're going to get some medicine for you and we're going to make it all better." Because lost things matter. Ezekiel chapter 34 is the Old Testament account of this story. And I can't help but think that when Jesus was sharing this parable, that the religious people had this story in their mind. Ezekiel 34. "For this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep, and I will look after them. As the shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so will I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they are, scattered on a day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out from the nations and gather them from the countries. I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel and the ravines and all the settlements in the land. I will tend them in good pastures, and the mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. There they will lie down in good grazing land, and there they will feed in rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I myself," God says, "will tend to my sheep, and I will have them lie down, declares the sovereign Lord. I will search for the lost and bring back the strays. I will bind up the injured and strengthen the weak. But the sleek and the strong I will destroy. I will shepherd the flock with justice." I realize that some of you are lost sheep. You're lost in the busyness of your life, where it seems that the perpetual chaos has stolen any sense of life and joy from you. I realize that some of you are lost in sin, that every day, whatever your sin is, you are stuck in it. And it's like a maze that you want to get out of, but every turn you hit another wall and another turn. Some of you are lost in doubt. How can he? How could he? Why, God? Some of you are lost in your pain. The pain that would drive you to do crazy things. The pain that says, I just want out. But in this story, we see that God is searching for you. If you're one of the people who are lost, God is searching for you. There comes a day when God will gather His people. We know that day about 2,000 years ago when Christ died on the cross and came again. Because that was the day that God tore the veil of the curtain open and He welcomed all of His people back in perfect communion with Him. And He says, I want you to be near me. But there also comes a day that is yet to come when we will be perfectly in unity with our Lord again. When we will truly be saved, and where the true all that has been lost, all that has been separated from the fold, will be brought back to God. The second story. This is now the lost coin, the woman who lost a coin. And mind you, this coin, that she has 10 of them, and she's lost one. And we're meant to look, this is a silver coin. It is probably about a day's wages. That's probably what it is. Some people might say it's more, and we can all argue over what it is. It's not the point of what it is doesn't really matter, but I'm going to pretend that it's about a day's wage, maybe 2 days' wage. And so as you're looking at this coin, it's probably the equivalent of $100. I figure if you're making $10 an hour on an 8-hour day, you know, $12 an hour, you're probably about $100. Now, she's lost this $100, or it's misplaced. It's somewhere in the house, and she's searching for it. You know, this actually happened to me one time. I actually lost $100. It was a check. It wasn't cash. $100 cash would be a little more pressing. My grandmother wrote a check for the boys for Christmas. And she wrote it for Christmas. You know, we travel, and so it got put in the luggage somewhere, and we got home and unpacked. And I, just never saw it. And eventually my mom called in like February or March, and it's like, hey, you still got that check from Momo? Because it hadn't cleared her bank yet. And I know my grandmother, she doesn't make a lot of money. She's retired and Social Security. And for her to have written a $100 check really meant that she saved. Like she sacrificed so that she could do that for our boys. Now there's part of an emotional that it's like, I got to find this check. I'm also thinking, well, you can cancel a check, write another check. It's not that big of an issue. But you know what I did whenever I found out I was missing $100? What would you do if you found out you're missing $100? I tore that house apart. Oh, there wasn't an ounce of that house that didn't get looked through, didn't get searched through. I was like, we're going through everything. Found it in the luggage eventually. It had been gotten put into a folder inside the luggage for safekeeping. Go figure. It was exactly where it belonged. Where I put it for safekeeping, that I put it somewhere so safe I wouldn't find it. You think that was the case with this woman? Maybe she had put this coin somewhere so safe that she just to make sure that she wouldn't lose it, that this time it actually got lost. I realize that when she found this coin, it says that she threw a party. Man, she threw a shindig. She invited her neighbors over and she said, I have found this coin. Now, this is also weird to me because I'm like, okay, so let's just say it's $100. Easy math. Have you gone to the store to buy food recently? If I'm going to have 20 people over for dinner, I'm going to spend more than $100 on food. I'm going to blow through $100 like that on food. And so I'm looking at this situation. I'm thinking, okay, so she finds the coin, and instead of hoarding it, instead of being like, yes, I'm going to put it back in my piggy bank, she says, I'm going to throw a party. I'm going to spend everything that I just found so that all my friends, all my neighbors can come and can celebrate with me. We are meant to see the craziness of that. It's not meant to make sense to us. Matter of fact, we're meant to see that whatever she found is what she spent, because you celebrate lost things, because lost things matter. Jesus says this in verse 10, in the same way I tell you There is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. As crazy as it may seem for that woman to have done all that she did after finding her one coin, we are meant to see that when one person surrenders their life to Christ, when one person says, yes, Lord, I no longer want to live to myself, I want to live to you. When one person who has made that decision in the past comes and says, you know what, I am erring, I need to change my life, all the angels in heaven rejoice over that exact same moment. And for what us may say, oh, good job, congratulations. The angels in heaven, I mean, they're just like, they are partying and they are so excited. And we're meant to see that. Do you see the pattern in our stories? The lost sheep was searched for. The lost coin was searched for. But the lost boy is a little different. This one's slightly different from that. Because in this case, the boy isn't really searched for. He has to come back. This is where I think Jesus gets personal in the third story. Personal to the crowd. He tells the story about a boy who walks to his father and he says, Dad, I wish you were dead. Go ahead and give me my money. You know, whatever's yours, that should be mine. Go ahead and give it to me because I've got a life to live and you're holding me back. And so the dad does. The son goes off to a far distant land. It says that he celebrates, and we only can imagine the celebration he has. This is Las Vegas. Like, that's what we're meant to think. He goes off to Las Vegas. He lives the life like Las Vegas. He does everything he wants to do and more. And so when we see this, he ends up flat broke feeding pigs. Now, for a Jewish boy, feeding pigs is pretty low. And the lowest part is a low I don't think I've ever been to, but he is looking and he is saying, that food that I just threw out for the pigs, that looks awful good right now. I am so hungry. So this day he makes up his mind. He says, you know what? I am going to go back to my father. I'm going to go and I'm going to plead like God, like I know even your servants are doing better than I'm doing. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find a way to get back into the fold, into the family. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to find a way to get close and connected. I want to be even a servant. And so can you imagine this journey that he is on? This long trek. I don't know how far it was, but if we're pretending Las Vegas, he's gone. Can you imagine the thoughts that he has on the whole walk back when he says, Father, okay. Well, first I thought, I was like, just, hearing aids make noise. And I thought, well, maybe someone's hearing aids going off. But then I heard a second one. I'm like, my phone's not with me. Is it one of those like tornado alarms? Like, everyone, we got to get to a basement. I didn't know. Okay. The boy's on his way home. He's on his way home back to dad. And I can't imagine that the whole trip home, is he thinking, is he asking, okay, Dad, like, I've done wrong, I've goofed up, I've made a mistake, I have sinned. And the whole way home, what's going through his mind? And we're told that when he's far enough away that the father could see him from a distance, the father gets up and goes running towards him. And I can't imagine like the moment that son who has famished, he's hungry, he's walked, he's exhausted, he probably doesn't have much ability to stand. And the dad like just bear hugs into him, like just all full force. They might tumble to the ground and the dad is just so happy to see him. And the son, he's going to try, like he's going to say, Dad, I've wronged. And before he can even get his prepared speech out, before he can even share what is going through his mind, the father says, like, go, like, he's telling a servant, go, get a robe, get a ring, get sandals. He doesn't look at the boy and tell him, "Whoo, you stink. You are ripe. We got to get you in a bathtub." Like he doesn't even say like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Let's go get you cleaned up and let's get you redressed." Like the father skips cleaning him up. And he says, "Get this boy in everything that he deserves as my son. Put him back in the right clothes. We'll worry about cleaning him up later. But let's get him dressed. Let's get shoes on his feet. Let's get a ring on his hand. And let's do everything we can to show him that lost things matter." But then we're told about the other son. The son that stayed home. I don't know what it was like for him when he's out in the field working and he's coming home and he hears music. I mean, they're clapping, they're yelling, they're hooping, they're hollering. I imagine that it probably smells like a good barbecue going on. Y'all know a smell of a good barbecue. There's some steaks on. And I can't imagine what he's coming home to, and he's seeing the servants are dancing, he's seeing everyone's happy, and he looks and he sees that worthless brother of his who's gone and done everything bad, and he goes to his father, and in the midst of this celebration, he probably throws a temper tantrum, a little fit. He says, "Dad, I never left you. I have stood here the entire time. I haven't cheated, I have done, and you haven't even given me anything for my friends. I never left. Where's my party?" In this verse 31, "My son," the father says, "you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad because the brother of yours was dead, is alive again, was lost and is found." And the story ends there. Kind of abruptly, if you ask me. But do you know why the story ends abruptly? Because Jesus, when he says that exact line, is looking at the people that need to hear it. He doesn't need to say anything more because he's looking at the people, the Pharisees, that need to hear this story. Now the tax collectors and sinners were gathered around, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "He welcomes sinners and eats with them." And in some way, I realize that God is looking straight at me when he says that. In some ways, I realize he's looking straight at you when he says that. Jesus gives us three pictures of God in this story or in this chapter. The shepherd who looks for the sheep, the woman who looks for the coin, and the father who runs to meet them. But the question for us becomes, where are you at in this story? Maybe you're the lost sheep. Maybe you've wandered away from faith, and maybe your life has gotten hard and God has felt distant. Maybe you didn't mean to drift away. Maybe you were just looking for something better and you just stumbled and walked away. But there you find yourself lost and at a distance. The good news is that Jesus is looking for you. He hasn't given up. And he's still searching. And he's calling you by name. Maybe you are the lost coin. Maybe you're in the house the whole time. You thought you're somewhere safe for safekeeping, but you just got lost. You feel unseen, unnoticed, and unheard. The good news is that God has always seen you, and he always knows right where you're at. He values you, and he is calling you to step out and be found in joy and celebration. Maybe you're the lost son. Maybe you've walked away and maybe you've made some choices along the way that you would look back and you say, "I really regret that one. It wasn't wise. It wasn't smart. And my life's pretty awful." Maybe you think God would never take you back. That maybe you've gone too far. But here's the good news. The Father is looking for you and is willing to run to you the moment you make the turn to come back to him. And maybe you're the older son, the older brother. Maybe you've been faithful all along. You've been obedient to your father, but deep down, somewhere inside of you, you've resented it because you didn't get to have the fun that other people got to have. You didn't get to do all the stuff that other people got to do. And today, God is inviting you in your bitterness to join the celebration that lost things matter. God's not done searching. He's searching for each and every one of us. And in each and every one of us, there is a lostness that is desperately seeking to be found. And if Jesus were to preach this sermon today, I think that he would say that lost people matter to God. Do they matter to you? I think if Jesus were preaching today, he would say that God is still searching. Will you come home? That grace is unfair. But isn't that why it's amazing? So will you embrace what the Father has in store for you, and will you let Him run to you? Because lost things matter. Rimmel has our application prayer this morning. As Rimmel comes to lead us in this prayer, may we be a people turning to God, and may lost things matter to us like they matter to our God. After Rimmel's prayer, if there's some way that we can pray with you or encourage you in your journey of faith, come find me. Rimmel?
Gracious God, we thank you for being able to be together as your people today and to worship you and to sing praises to you. We thank you for being able to hear Reese read a portion of your word. We thank you that Josh highlighted how you love us each and every one. We thank you for being a good shepherd and looking after us, caring for us. We thank you that, like the lady that lost her coin, that you see us as precious in your sight. And we thank you so much for Jesus Christ, who came and as the perfect sacrifice that we might also be considered your children, and that you would have prepared a place for us to enjoy your presence all the time. We pray that you would be with us this week and help us to see others as you see precious in your sight, and that you would help us to be servants to gather the lost and to express the joy that you have when each of us is redeemed. We pray that you would be those that have lost their loved one. You would comfort them, and pray that you'd be with Shirley tomorrow as she has her procedure. In Christ I pray. Amen.